Thank you, Jack. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Virtual Speakeasy. My name is Lou Martin. I'm a grateful member here at Speakeasy. Great to have you this morning. Our mission is as follows. Speakeasy is a diverse and progressive spiritual community, sharing a message of love and engaging in conversations that inspire creative expression and spiritual well-being. We honor the Divine Mother and follow the teachings of A Course in Miracles and the principles of love. We see you as a unique expression of love, capable of divine embodiment. Here at Speakeasy, truth is our passion, love is our religion, care is our currency, and peace is our goal. We attempt to speak easily about tough and tender topics so that we can navigate life with greater wisdom and grace. We devote this service to the Divine Mother, Mary Magdalene, Jesus, Buddha, and all the holy names of God, to all saints and enlightened teachers, as well as their teachings, specifically the teachings of A Course in Miracles. We truly welcome you, and we're so glad that you're here. We are a social media friendly community, and we invite you to check in on our Facebook platform, share our invites and events, and if you're watching our live stream on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We are a spiritual community with a global message, and we invite you to help share the message. If you received a reminder text today and you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, just copy, paste, and text them the invite. It's easy, and everyone loves to be invited. It's truly so great to be here with you this morning. If this is your first time, welcome. If this is your second time, welcome back. Our hope is that you make this your spiritual home. Our spiritual community is a place to connect. We'd love to be able to recognize you by name. So if you're comfortable, please add your name on your Zoom profile. Before we get to the talk and the community conversations, Vince Parker will be sharing invitations and announcements, followed by Sherry Ransom leading us in prayer. And then we have the talk, the community offering, and then the conversation. In this conversation, we encourage you not to leave your brains, your beliefs, or your background at the door. We don't have all the answers, but we love the questions. So now you have a roadmap about the flow of our gathering here this morning. Again, you're very welcome. I'll pass to Vince for our announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Good day. My name is Vince Parker, and I'm a grateful member of the Speakeasy community. We are a virtual community offering daily classes and events on Zoom to support you through the week in your spiritual journey. Some of the many activities coming up are Saturday, December 6th at 10 a.m. Central, Elizabeth Keats leads introducing the work of Byron Katie. In this class, you will learn how to use Byron Katie's The Work to release resentment, fear, judgment with this easy and practical method. Also available by private appointment by emailing Elizabeth. Her contact will be in the chat. Speakeasy will be celebrating our 12th anniversary on Sunday, December 7th. Join us for a unique Sunday experience filled with live music by Lou Martin, Maisie Bull, and Zach Friedhoff. January 1st is the beginning of the new round of Miracles Live 365. This is a program where we gather every morning to study, apply, and embody the workbook lessons of A Course in Miracles live on Zoom. We have 2 different times available where you can join live, or if you are not able to make the live call, you can listen to the replay and connect with the group in our private Facebook page once you join the membership. Don't miss this great opportunity to make 2026 a year filled with peace. All of our classes and events can be found in our calendar of events. The link will be in the chat. When you see an offering in the calendar that is of interest, click on it to see the class details and registration information, or go to our website, speakeasyspiritualcommunity.com. Thank you and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sherry Ransom, and I'm a grateful member of the community. I'm here to lead you in a moment of prayer. This morning, we're going to talk about when the storm speaks. And I was led to do lesson 313. Now let a new perception come to me. So let us tuck our chins and bow our heads and take 2 deep breaths. Father, there's a vision which beholds all things as sinless, so that fear has gone, and where it was is love invited in. And love will come wherever it is asked. This vision is your gift. The eyes of Christ look on a world forgiven. In his sight are all of its sins forgiven, but he sees no sin in everything he looks upon. Now let his true perception come to me, that I may awaken from the dream of sin and look within upon my sinlessness, where you have kept completely undefiled upon the altar to your Holy Son, the self with which I would identify. Now let a new perception come to me. Now take another deep breath in. And so we begin.
Beautiful, Sherry. Thank you so much. The poetry of the Course is always breathtaking, isn't it?
Mm.
It is my pleasure to introduce our dear speaker today, Maureen Muldoon. Maureen is the founder and spiritual director of Speakeasy, an international speaker, writer, storyteller, and songbird who believes in the miraculous power of story and archetypal work to heal and transform. She guides women through the maiden voyage towards spiritual sovereignty while honoring the men who rise in love alongside them. Maureen embodies and celebrates the healed maiden, muse, mogul, mother, minister, mystic, and monarch. Her poetic and prophetic truths are not designed to add a fresh coat of paint, but to rewire your entire motherboard. Buckle up and strap in. Maureen Muldoon.
Ah, that's fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
To rewire the motherboard, sometimes you got to take the whole thing down, apparently. You know what I'm saying? So buckle up. First of all, I just want to say I'm here with so much gratitude, and welcome to anyone who's here for the first time. Because, we are celebrating 12 years of meeting. First, we met in a little chapel in Hinsdale, and man, was I reluctant. And then even when I got the call to suggest that our community would be one that would honor the Divine Mother, I was like, oh my God, like just light the match because they're going to burn me at the stake. Like this is where I die. When God gives you a calling and you feel like reluctant in your bones, but also that there's no avoiding it, that's a storm. So anyway, here we are, after COVID, we've came to this sacred sanctuary of virtual time. And I just wanted to take a moment to, if you can't make it next week, just to celebrate you and us and all of us here for gathering and to thank Speakeasy, this entity that called us all here, and to thank the 12-step program, which was a very inspirational program that inspired the idea that we might come here and sit knee to knee and heart to heart, and where we would, honor the Divine Mother and Father. And that is no small thing. And that is what I came for. And that is what I mentioned earlier, would gladly flip tables for. And so over the years, we have grown up together and blown up together in love. And I'm already starting the celebration, I guess. So it ties in pretty well with our theme today. This week, we're talking about rage. It doesn't sound like that's an obvious connection, but there's that storm that seems to blow us down, or in some cases, blow us up. And funny enough, I kept getting this prompt this week as we navigated these early morning conversations where we teach A Course in Miracles. We do that every day, and we have these conversations every single morning. And this week, it was very much centered on rage and people having some rage. And so we There's no stone we don't turn over. So we were talking about rage, and I kept getting this prompt to share about the storm. And before I could even assemble a thought around that, I personally and powerfully got hit by storms. And I'm not talking metaphysically here, I'm talking literally. And I apologize if you already read about some of this in my blog, but I thought you might like to hear it from the horse's mouth. So I was pet sitting this dog, and I rushed in to get him a treat before I was heading out the door. And I somehow spun myself into a small cyclone of urgency. And before I knew it, I tripped and I hit hard, a beautiful collision between my shoulder and the floor. And it was breathtaking. And then I reminded myself right away when I hit the floor, my body is healing, my body is healing. but my body didn't get the memo, because it was like, I'm really not healed right now. So it's in process. And this is us human, graceful and awkward and pretty and pathetic. And it's beautiful. So before I could catch my breath, another real storm blew in, like a real storm, which blew down some trees, and it went on our power line. And all of a sudden, our little cabin was dark, and we were in 20-degree weather, and there's no heat, and suddenly there's smoke. You ever been inside a cold cabin with no lights and smoke? I was like, this is a special haunted show. And it turned out that our warmer for our mattress was plugged in, and a surge of electricity came through our wiring, and it was so strong that it melted the plug, and our bedroom was filling up. And we found it, we unplugged it, thank God, before the house, burned down. But then the real damage was revealed when we realized that every single electronic in our home had been fried. Like the refrigerator, the oven, the water heater, the coffee maker, was just snap, crackle, pop power. And that's the thing about storms, inside or out. They are like a vortex of power, like breathtaking power. So that power, when it has nowhere to go, when it's unharnessed and unpurposeful, it can burn you right the F down, just like these electronics. And the first step in navigating when this should happen, and maybe even before this should happen, is to get really humble about the degree of power that can sometimes come with the classroom. A sincere respect is required for things that carry that much power. These are our master classes, and they are executively produced by big power so that it gets our attention. And we might want to navigate these type of classrooms with a little bit more extra grace, extra grace, extra grace. So what holds big power? Well, when you first fell in love and you felt you were levitating, talk about power, right? Electricity, the way that it affected my home, that's power. Mother Superior, Lake Superior before me, when I look at her, when I look at big bodies of water, I'm like, that's power, man. Alcohol, big power. Drugs, big power. Sex, big power. Food. Think about it. Food has the power that it sustains us. It literally keeps our life alive. And what I'm curious about around these big powers is, do we have a sincere, humble respect for that kind of power, a sacred awareness of that relationship? Or are we unconscious and casual around, say, our relationship with food? Because being casual around these big powers can prove to be fatal. We're all going to die anyhow, but we could go early. I once had this experience just this past summer where I experienced what could have been devastating results from not having a certain high respect and humility around Mother Superior, Lake Superior. It was a particularly blustery day, and Shannon, who has informed us that she's snowblowing her lawn through this talk, was convinced me that this was the day I was going to, face my fears of heights, and that we were going to jump off a cliff. So again, we might have been a little too casual because the water was rough that day. And we swam out to the cliff, and Shannon swears to this day that she almost drowned. And that was prior to me actually climbing up the cliff and jumping off of it, and my own personal fear. So even as she was confessing her bold baptism of meeting, the face of death to me, and now having like a real respect for Mother Superior, I was like, look, that's all fine and good. Like you didn't die when you swam here, but I still have to jump off the cliff, and I know I'm going to die. know if this is going to happen for me. I mean, I was so afraid. And so it's not lost on me that casual is the root word of casualty. Did you ever think of that? You ever get burnt by something you've been too casual around? I often teach people, you know, because the Course in Miracles tells us not to take things too seriously, but there's also a very powerful spiritual dagger in not taking life serious enough, especially some of these major classrooms. We face these big classrooms of life with a casual nature, and we risk becoming casualties of those very classrooms, not because we're being punished, but because the depth of that particular classroom requires a depth within us as well. And when you want to reach the depth within you, you're going to find yourself bowing. You're going to find yourself kneeling. You're going to find yourself getting a little bit lower so that that classroom can have the respect that it deserves. So let me tell you, I did not come with any cavalier casualty when I came trembling knees and my mouth full of prayers climbing up that cliff. It was like, I mean, I must have said 1,002 prayers. Oh, there's a video to prove it, but anyhow. So this is how we should approach anything that holds great power. With sex, with alcohol, with drugs, with shopping, with anything that carries big power that's used to sedate big power. If we have a powerful storm within us and we use something like of equal power to sedate that first power so that we can go unconscious to the storm, what we do is we create a perfect storm. And it's best not to fight those storms with an alternative false power, but instead to humble ourselves, tether ourselves to God, and stay awake in the storm. Because eventually that false power that you're attempting to use to sedate yourself will eventually fail. I mean, we've all had that experience, but it will not fail before it asks you to turn over everything, your life, your family, your cars, your security. And once it has everything, only then will it turn its back on you and stop working. That's what we call addiction. If it sounds familiar, there's a 12-step program for you. So that, my friend, we call addiction, or just a misuse of power. So it's best not to do that. It's best to bow and develop a sacred, sincere relationship with your divine, to bow into it, or as the case may be, to bow out of it. Some people are so sensitive to these alternative elixirs that they go down so fast, you know? And when they learn the hard way that they have to bow out, that was me in alcohol. Like, I had to bow out. That was an elixir that I was using to quiet a storm. But, you know, as all false gods tend to do, it turned into, instead of a sedative, it turned into gasoline. And instead of quieting the storm, it amplified them. And we see this. It's forgivable, but it's good that we should know it, right? So now, when I say storm, I'm just talking about classrooms, really. It's all just a classroom, the same that we bow into or out of with life. But there are some classrooms that we can't bow out of. And the Course in Miracles uses these particular classrooms in a very specific and special way. And they're called relationships. You can't bow out of relationships, which brings us to some very big storms. If you just got through Thanksgiving and you were able to avoid some storms, good on you. Good job. It's not always the case. But we can't avoid them. And since we can't avoid them, we get to learn how to navigate them. There's always a classroom for our spiritual evolution. That's all that they are. And when they start to get stormy, we have what we would call, like, we've projected on our relationship something within us that's ready to heal. And it's not always a light switch. Sometimes things are buried so deep and so hard held that it can feel like a total annihilation prior to the liberation. But when the annihilation begins to happen, enters rage. And rage, you know, it gets a bad reputation, rage, because we hear like road rage, and that's bad, and political rage or parenting rage or religious rage, you know. But before we demonize rage, let's just try to redefine it. Why don't we just call it a foghorn? That's all. Something that is ready to pop or shift, and here comes a foghorn. It's so loud, it needs to get our attention to inform us that something very sacred and tender is taking place, and we need to listen up. And like noble midwives, it might be time to take a deeper, deeper, deeper breath. Instead of spitting fire at the world, it might be time to get still, to bear down. Something is either dying or birthing, and sometimes it's both at the same time. And I have an example of this. I have this personal story that I have shared, the first chapter of a few times. When it's necessary, I share this story. I think it's a very powerful story. It's a very powerful elixir and not something I take out too often. But, when I'm called to, I do. And what I didn't know was that there was a second wave to this classroom that I was in that was asked to be healed and honored. But I didn't know that. So the first wave of this storm was that I was raped when I was 16 on the campus of Columbia University. And I was so shocked because I was so naive. I was 16 years old. I was in New York City with my best friend. We were celebrating our sweet 16th birthday. I was a day older than her. Anyway, long story short, this horrific thing happens. And I just didn't see the lion den I was walking into. And I was devastated. And this was followed by like years of shame and secrecy, until one day in my 30s, I was deciding to get licensed as a spiritual practitioner. And so I was asked through this program to look at all the ways I had hid shame and where they all lived, and if I could bring them out and if I could heal them, because then I could be more helpful. And so I went to see this practitioner. Her name was Miriam. She was amazing. And she was also a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And she told me in this one session that there was a place within me that had never been touched by this event, and that I was good and beautiful and holy. And if I wanted to, I could be healed. I could claim that I was healed, and I wanted to. And so I left that one session, healed. And I felt this restoration, like truly and completely in my bones. And I thought that was the end of it. And then I hadn't known that first of all, I hadn't known that I could wash from myself that smear of shame that seemed to step into every single room with me. And I noticed that when I told other people that story, if they had incurred that kind of trauma, that something would open sometimes in them, and they'd go, oh, I'm allowed to experience that as well. So it felt like a very helpful thing. And I thought I was done. Until one day, my daughter was leaving for college. And I was supposed to drive her. And she kept coming up to me. We had prepared, we did everything to prepare her for this moment, to prepare us for this moment. But she kept saying to me, like, Mom, clear out the car. You got to take me to college. Mom, clear out the car. You got to take me to college. And I kept avoiding it. I didn't know why. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. Well, finally, she took matters into her own hands and she started taking things out of the car. When I tell you rage, like I looked like a wild freaking animal. I was like throwing things around my yard. I can kind of laugh at it now, but I'm laughing and crying. I didn't know what was happening. I thought what was happening was that I was afraid of her leaving for college and that I was having just that kind of a reaction. But it was so much more inappropriately large than just driving somebody to college, even though that can seem like a big thing. And she was looking at me like with her eyes wide. And what I didn't know what was happening, like I kind of felt like I was overtaken by this rage. And I'd never seen myself like this before. And I was literally like in the eye of a storm, but I didn't know how I got there or why. And after it passed, I felt so ashamed and embarrassed. And, I had taken my daughter's big day going off to college, and I sort of sent a wrecking ball through it. And because I didn't know there was a second storm, a second wind, a second healing, I didn't understand it. And I kind of wrote it off, and I apologized, and she and I kind of laughed about it. Eventually I took her out to lunch, and I did all the things that you do on the surface to try and figure out, like, I'm normal, it's okay, everything's fine. But as I sat with it, I began to recognize that it wasn't just because she was going off to college, but that I hadn't at the time connected it with my being raped on a college campus. And when I began to look at that, it almost seemed so obvious to me. And I didn't know that the trauma was being asked to be heard again. And you know it's trauma. Like I said, you know it's trauma when the response is so totally out of proportion to the stimuli. And so that's a place where you can go, okay, something's happening here that's bigger than what we can see. And that's when you know the trauma can't really be, avoided, but it needs to be looked at. So I had to heal the idea, or rather, I had healed the idea with this practitioner that I was safe to walk the world. But this generational trauma that I had unconsciously gifted to my daughter was saying, I'm not sure that she's safe to walk the world. And that idea gutted me, turned me into a wild, raging animal. And if I wasn't so deaf, I might have heard the foghorn in that moment. The foghorn in the cloud of confusion that says something is ready to heal even deeper. Something is dying. Something is flying. It's time to take a knee and bow your head and breathe for as long as it takes for this to pass, and it will pass. Sometimes like an elegant sailboat across the horizon, and sometimes, like my friend Joan Burns says, like a kidney stone. But it will pass. Rage is not a sin. So if you have had the experience of rage, just know that it's a signal. It points to what's been silenced and what is sacred. We don't need to wait for the foghorn of rage to blow the whistle. There's usually at least a few million red flags that we ignore. There's usually 1,000 trespasses, a million untold truths that we sedate with drugs or sex or shopping or suggestions that say, oh, you're fine, or yeah, what's wrong here? Don't look the other way. Like it's all good. And then suddenly you snap and you crack open and you explode and you wonder what happened. And then you begin to go with an egoic script that says, am I crazy? Like, what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You're just experiencing a spiritual exorcism. And in a really fierce and ferocious way, you're finally asking for the love that your soul requires, but you're using the only vocabulary that you happen to have access to. And it's called rage. And everyone speaks it, and everyone hears it, and everyone can recognize it when it comes. And the answer is to be gentle with yourself and to be gentle with somebody who's experiencing that. We are all, even now, carrying 1,000 little storms that, if not acknowledged, could flare up. We're like walking Pandora's boxes, and any unknown daughter innocently can pop the lid and trigger an ancient pain that can take the whole house down. Now, even if that should happen, and it might, it's important for us to know that we're not defined by the storms, but how we dance through them or belly crawl, as the case may be. But it's not just defining us, but it's also exposing something to us. And I'll talk about that in just a little while. But like I said, it's not always pretty, and this is an extra insult to injury, especially for women. Whether we like it or not, we are indoctrinated from the first freaking breath to be pretty. And rage is not pretty. And so we fear it twice as much. And we are withheld from it twice as much. So I implore you that despite all the indoctrination of fearing the ugly truth, it's much better to have transparent rage than passive, imprisoned hostility towards yourself and others. Because at least in rage, you know what you're dealing with. Who was not interested in being pretty was Jesus. He showed us the raw and real side of humanity. He showed us what we were capable of. And I mean both in the crucifixion and the resurrection. That was not pretty. But he was willing to show us how ugly we could be if we kept up with this fear game, with this separation game, with this special relationship game. It could get really ugly. So here's the thing. We're all going to have to face some storms, but who will we be when the lights go out and the triggers are activated? Will we be able to hold our unharnessed wild selves with compassion and tenderness and curiosity? Will we be able to see that the woman that we're staring at, that we're witnessing from some out-of-body experience is not some unhinged bitch, but rather a woman who is wrestling with 1,000 invisible, nameless demons? Will we be able to hold space for that? If we're brave enough, we can break the secrets. If we're brave enough, we can share our secrets and break the spell. If we're brave enough, we can break the spell of shame that keeps us quiet, which is why I find myself often laying my linens on the table for you, even if I want to sort of preach from a pretty place behind a picket fence, and keep my dirty laundry in the backyard. I wish I could be that tactful, but I can't, because being transparent is not actually hard for me. I will say that. I was raised in the 12-step community where we were told that you're only as sick as your secrets. And from A Course in Miracles that told me all healing is mutual. So it would be disingenuous and also not generous to hold back the truth from you. I'd only be holding back the truth from me too. But I also don't want to dishonor myself or my truth by telling you that kind of lifestyle is easy. I often hear students say to me, this is hard. This is hard. And most of the time I am guilty of spitting out one of my sassy little slogans like, I'll be damned if I'm not blessed by this, or, are your bags are your bags heavy or are your arms strong? Which is nice. You know what I mean? I still like those things. I am a silver lining factory. I don't think that's something I can change about myself. But I personally have to take a look at my addiction to making it pretty, because sometimes no matter how strong your arms are, the bags are fucking heavy. Okay. I know a lot of people are dragging a lot of dead corpses around, and I don't want to make light of that. Right now, I got one arm that is not strong. I mean, I can barely lift it. So I can say, maybe it's both. Maybe it's not hard, but maybe it's also not always easy. And if you get sideswiped, or if you feel grumpy, or if you feel agitated, and you're saying, oh, I'm a spiritual being and I'm not supposed to experience those things, can we just hold space for each other without judging each other or ourselves in our dark hours? They're going to come. So although it's helpful to name where you feel the rage and where you see red, it can also, I know, feel so tender and traumatizing, to confess to these things. Like sometimes it feels so tender and traumatizing that you don't even want to open the can of worms because you think, I don't know where it's going to end, But I think we got to learn how to speak what has been silenced and stigmatized. My own personal traumas and rage are not just about how I have been raped and devalued as a woman, but I'm just one speck of sand in the tsunami of trespassings and traumas that stem all the way back to the foundational ache that we all suffer, in my opinion, while living in a world that has worshipped a widowed God. The unknown and the unacknowledged homesickness for a mother that we're never taught to name or honor. I mean, whether you admit to it or not, we suffer a universal trauma like the erasure of the feminine divine. And until we honor that, girls are not safe, because girls are not safe until girls are seen as sacred, and they're not. It's not until we have a female God that we will equate sacredness with the feminine. And it's time to do that. And when there's a faulty wiring in our foundation, the only math left is that it's going to burn the whole house down. So this is what we're experiencing, a house on fire. So we attempt to speak the hard truth and work honestly through a storm, not against it. And here's the good thing. We have this older brother named Jesus, who could not only walk us through storms, but he could show us how to be a storm, which I love. There are two moments in the gospel that give us a window into the inner wisdom and weather of this man. Two moments that show us not a distant or like ethereal Christ, but a full-blown human moving through real emotional storms. And if you ask me, it's one of the most generous and transparent and therefore helpful glimpses of him. And the first comes early in his ministry. In the evening, Jesus and his disciples are crossing the the Sea of Galilee, and the waters are calm when they first start out, but the sky is clear, and then a storm comes out of nowhere, and these waves crash, and the boat's rocking, and the disciples are freaking out. And Jesus is asleep, not because he's indifferent, because he's anchored into something deeper. Metaphysically, that's one interpretation of the story. And so when they wake him, they say, like, teacher, like, don't you care about, like, we're going to perish here? And he stands and he faces the storm. He just faces it. He doesn't fight it. He doesn't fear it. He faces the storm. This is a key moment for all of us. And he speaks 3 words that every storm or internal storm, external or internal, knows how to obey. And he simply says, be still. He says, peace, be still. Essentially saying, you have no power here. You may be this writhing sea of fear, but my faith is fearless. And everyone knows that storms are not permanent anyhow. So this too shall pass, and let it pass, and let it pass, and let it pass, and let it pass. And in times they do. So the message in this story is to be not afraid. The storms will pass and it will pass by. Now, the next story I want to share with you is what happens when the storm passes through. Something that can be twice as scary, I think, when a storm passes through. So the story goes that Jesus was walking, he walked into the temple and he sees this injustice and this exploitation, this spiritual manipulation. And it's happening in the temple courtyard, and it's full of merchants and money changers and exploitation of the poor and getting people to buy animals for sacrifice. And all 4 gospels, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, they have this account of what they call the temple cleansing scene. But what happens right before Jesus flips the table depends on which gospel you read. Some say that he came in, he assessed the situation, and then he went out to dinner with his friends. Others say that he came in and he just created a whip and he went ballistic. So there's a different account, but what they all say is by the time Jesus steps up and places his hands on the table, it's fueled by this storm of hypocrisy and heartbreak that's spinning in his bones, and something divine inside him snaps, not out of alignment, but into alignment, like a well-placed arrow going for the bullseye, and he flips the table. And this is not the gentle Jesus. This is the Jesus, the storm, the disruptor, the one whose love is so fierce that he refuses to let harm hide beneath holiness. And I don't know about you, but in my heart, I find that moment both so hot and so holy, so helpful, really. How does that land with you? If you placed yourself in that scene and let yourself hold space for that storm, it could look like rage, but maybe it's just really just sharp truth, so sharp that it cuts through the confusion and it gets the message across. It's a compass. It points to where something is being missed. It's something that's being suppressed. It's something sacred that's asking to be restored. So, it has a way of cleaning and cleansing the temple. And this is how we feel, I think, after we have a good cry. Think about where your temples are. You're also a temple. And, when the storm moves through, when you have a good cry, you kind of cleanse the temple. And it comes after a storm. So we almost the storm almost comes with the cleansing. And in the snail trail of the storm moving off into the distance, the cleansing is also the possibility of a new way of being, a new world emerging. No storm is permanent. Every storm is purposeful. Every storm has a purpose to it. And we get to ask, because we're, of course, in Miracles teachers and students, what is the purpose of the storm? They don't so much, as I said, define us, but they inform us of a power that we have access to. And I don't believe you can fully appreciate the power until you let a storm move through you. And only then does it reveal the extravagant measure and math that comes when conviction meets consciousness. But you have to stay conscious. Otherwise, conviction will crucify you. You have to stay conscious. And that's what you do every other day of the week when it's sunny, so that you can prepare when the storm comes. And, it will flip all of your broken stories, and it will leave you having learned something about yourself. It will give us something necessary for your spiritual evolution, something needed, something holy. And maybe it will ask us something as well. Because I don't think that this gospel should live as entertainment or some, exception, but instead, like, it should be an engagement. And in the engagement, I think to myself, like, where am I willing to speak truth to power? What table am I willing to flip? What conversations have been abandoned and need to be addressed? And what truth needs to be told? And what injustice needs to be brought into alignment? And what hopeless cause needs my breath to resuscitate it? Will you be ready when the storm comes? And when it does, will it blow you up or will it blow you out? That's the choice. If you come prepared, it will have the opportunity to blow you up in love. That's the word. That is the word.
It is. Bless your heart, Maureen. God love you, darling. That was incredible. Here's Vince Parker for our community offering.
I second that. Incredible. Thank you, Maureen. Speakeasy is a non-for-profit virtual spiritual community, and we exist on the generosity of our community members. We thank you for playing your part and for taking the opportunity to make a donation for today's daily bread. Your generous donations help us bring spiritual leaders, artists, and speakers to Sunday service and keep important conversations going. As the law of circulation states, freely we give, freely we receive. As you were spiritually fed by today's conversation, I invite you to go within and see what is yours to share. No gift is too small. The donation link is in the chat, as well as on our website, speakeasyspiritualcommunity.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vince. Okay, here we go, my friends. Chapter 2. Now it is time for the true. That was just devastating, Maureen. My head is spinning here. Bless you. Now it is time for the truly unique experience of Speakeasy Sunday service, our community conversation. This is where we invite you to speak easily, find your voice and your truth, and share your thoughts, inspirations, awareness, and your questions in community. When you feel called to share a question or comment, please raise your virtual hand, which is located in the Reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. Please also note to leave your video on when doing so, as we want to know and see you. Okay, and I will get started for whatever little it might be worth to apologize on behalf of all men on this planet for all the stupid, unconscious, selfish, crazy.
We've inherited this together, my brother.
I know, but let me just make this much of an effort to bring some small measure of justice. But thank you for your courage to share all that, and I love you for it. And this is the world we're moving into, is just naked and free, or dragging a big weight behind every one of us every step of the way.
I think it's a major healing. I really and truly do. Has anybody not noticed that there's, like, even in our most precious books, 12-Step, A Course in Miracles, like, even finagling the gender, I know that it means nothing, but I also know that it means something first, and then it means nothing. And so first we have to heal it before we negate it. And so, there's no church that, celebrates the feminine divine. And for me, I really do feel like that is a point of rage for me. Now, that doesn't mean it's a masculine or a feminine thing. It means it's a universal thing. Like when
Yes.
we say Father, Son, and Holy fucking Ghost, are you kidding me? Like even in that, we have a dead mother. Like Disney has taken its cue from that. You know what I mean? And like all after you give birth, you're not necessary. So we're just like, off you go. You know, like we want our mothers. I feel that way. But again, I don't think it's just about the mother, but also about the characteristics of the feminine that live within you. I mean, you're a
Yes.
music man, you're an artist, you know about that. The masculine lives within me. I mean,
Yes.
I'm a leader. I'm going to spit fire. These are things that we equate to masculine and feminine, but they're actually, we're all one. So but we have to honor ourselves as equal before we do that. And when I was thinking about like my teachers, one of them was Reverend Beckwith, and man, I know
Yeah.
he was your teacher too.
Yeah.
And like what I really loved about him is that I would go into his church and he would just say like 3 lines and I would be weeping. They had this ministry where people would walk around the church with boxes of tissues. I was not alone. They had a tissue ministry. I don't know if you know that, but yeah,
Oh,
they had
yes.
a ministry.
Oh, yes.
They would walk around and people were like, oh, crying all over the place because we're like waking up. Now, here's the thing about my secrecy and my stigmatized state of being is
Right.
that man could stand on the pulpit and I'd be crying, but I don't think I ever saw him do a sermon where he cried. So we miss the feminine fluidity in that man, as brilliant as he is. What would it have been like if we got to see the feminine and the masculine and the feminine? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah, we need it all. We all need all of it. Absolutely.
And to
Jack,
make it
yeah.
equally available for everyone. Like my husband was telling me the story about when he was a little kid and his mom got hit by a huge truck.
Yeah.
He was a little boy and he like went in to see her and she was like a Picasso. She was like in pieces.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's going to be okay. Like she could barely breathe. And she was telling him it was going to be okay. And he felt like he wasn't, I know. And he felt he wasn't allowed to show any emotion because he was like the little soldier boy. What are we doing?
Yes. I want to let Jack come in. Jack. Thank you, Maureen.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sure I'm not alone in just being totally blown away by what you shared, Maureen. So thank you so much for all of it. One thing that gave me goosebumps, the whole thing gave me goosebumps, but in particular, it was like it took it to a new level, is when you talked about the second wave of healing that needed to happen. And it was the most resonant and visceral and vivid depiction of how our children are our greatest teacher. And I don't have any children of my own, but hopefully I will one day. And I'm just amazed at like the way you told that story of that moment of you not packing the car, and then it and how the storm came through you. It was just so incredible, not in a good or bad way, but just so unbelievably incredible to hear you understand. Like the way you talked about it was like this, you talk about classrooms all the time, but like this is, you were with your teacher was pushing you in the direction to learn the lesson and
Mhm.
show you actually have more healing to do.
Yeah.
And there is just nothing like, I mean, when as soon as you described it and that you were having trouble packing the car, I was like, oh my God.
I
Like
know.
it's the only way that could have come up again, because of
Yeah.
course it would. And it makes me reflect on like, what are the things one day when my child is, I don't know what it would be necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably journal about it and
Yeah.
come up with the forms, but like how do we handle that? And it sounds like the best you can do is actually to honor it all the way,
Yeah.
and then come together afterwards and go out to lunch, like you said, and do whatever you need to do. But there's so many other things I could say, but I was really struck by that because it feels like that's what blew your mind as well.
Yeah. And here's the
Totally blew
thing,
mine.
to be totally like transparent, that moment happened and like then a year went by I still didn't connect the dots. And she and I were doing these funny videos together. And she's like, well, it sure is nice. I'm like, Billy's going back to school this year. And she's like, well, it sure is nicer than last time I went to school. And I was like, oh, do tell, what happened? And she like tells this whole story. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, when had I ever been like that? She's like, never before and since. And I was like, so, like it was something was happening. And what I equated it to at that time was that she was going to college and I'd never gone to college. What I didn't equate was that I never went to college because I didn't feel safe in college.
Right.
And so it wasn't until we were in Italy and she brought it up again like a year later. And I don't know why at that time I said to her, because I felt like she was old enough to know the truth of what happened to me. I don't want to burden her with these things. But I said, this is what happened. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And I mean, it's a very tender topic. But so I think that the healing comes as we continue to stay conscious and do the conscious work and know with the Holy Spirit, like, this is not a time this is, like I was saying, this is strong medicine. So I'm not going to just blare it out to the world. Like, it's a time to tell the story and a time not to tell the story. And we have to be willing to tell it when it's time to tell it. Like, even when I sat here writing this, I was like, oh, I'm not telling that story in public. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, I guess this is what I have to share because it has to do with rage. And that was one of the 2 times that I experienced total rage. Where I didn't recognize myself. And it's embarrassing, but it shouldn't be embarrassing. It's just a woman on fire who's wrestling with unnamed and invisible demons that you can't see. Yes. And when I see other people like that, I'm like, okay, I don't know what they're carrying, but I have no business to judge them. We will see each other in rage. Can we hold space for that?
Exactly. Thank you, Jack. Let's let Laura and then Marty come in.
So, Maureen, the thing that blows me away about you is not what happens, it's how you deal with it. And I'm so inspired by it, so incredibly inspired by it. And I cracked up out loud this week when you shared about, we just have a bunch of outliers here who are, have done all kinds of illegal stuff and gotten, we have just.
Oh, in our community?
Yeah.
We are
wild people.
Criminals. We are a pack of hoodlums.
We're a pack of hoodlums.
We make holy look.
Exactly. And of course, I'm thinking to myself in the moment, I'm cracking up and I'm thinking about all the illegal stuff I've done in my life and how I've, I think that I've gotten away with anything, but it's just been my own inner crucifixion, which has not been helpful. But, it also has been just, honest and earnest to just say, the rage that lives underneath the skin is palpable, especially over the last week. This conversation about rage has brought up all of this. And as somebody who has been brutally raped and hospitalized from it and has been an incest survivor, it's there. And it has been sort of humbling to see the rage that has come up in me this week towards myself for just continuing to fold when I don't have the words to speak back. And I am trying to find my voice at almost 63. And it has been a motherfucker, excuse my language, but I just had to say that. And also say that I'm alive, and I'm so grateful for that because I've been in 2 horrible drunken driving accidents that have, could have easily have killed somebody, and I'm still here, and I'm so grateful for that. That I was given that grace. So thank you.
Bless you.
Yeah, there's some, and so God, look at all the thresholds your little soul walked through, all the interesting classrooms where you picked up some interesting scar tissue, and still you arrive at this little powerhouse who's fucking flipping tables, taking names, raising money for A Course in Miracles, shedding light, loving everyone unconditionally, nothing stopped you, my friend. They tried to stop you 1,000 times. They tried to bury you. They didn't know you were a fucking seed. And the tree that grows from your consciousness feeds so many people, you know? And so, you know, I don't think anybody here is going to avoid those classrooms. It's only that the ego makes us think that they're sad or scary or stigmatizable. And then we go, well, me too. Like Marty just put in the chat, me too, or mine too. You know, so transparency is going to get us there. I truly and truly believe that, you know, and I do not think we can have transparency if we don't have rage. I feel like rage is part of the picture. But how we have it is another thing. And you want to have it. You don't want to let it have you. So sometimes that unexpressed rage, I mean, if you get down to it, it can fire shit in your body and dis-ease in your body. So you know, you kind of want to get there. And I know you've already done so much work, as have I, but we don't know the second, third, fourth, and fifth classrooms that are coming up for us for our spiritual evolution. Mm-hmm. So just buckle up and be gentle with yourself. And we will hold space for you as you continue to rise and shine.
Thanks, honey.
Beautiful. Thank you, Laura. Bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Come on.
Yeah, hi. Good to be here. Good to hear you. And I gotta say, I'm kind of with Lou. You know, as a guy, I know we're part of both things. You know, I want to apologize for that. That's not right. That's not right. What happens to, and it goes on all the time, and it's wrong.
Mm.
But you know, I was thinking about the other side too. You know, being a young guy, young kid, you know, and I was hurt sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I couldn't show it. I couldn't show that I was hurt because you can't be like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people, what's wrong with this guy? You know, you can't have that sadness on you.
Right.
You had to toughen up and do it.
Right.
And that stayed with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it stayed with me a lot. And it wasn't easy. It still isn't. I mean, but, you know, I'm better now, I think. I hope so. And
Yeah.
I'm more understanding of stuff. But, you know, like we have our roles. And I'm not saying that, you know, people are all the same. It's not the case. But we have these things that, you know, we're defined by and with. And that's a pain in the ass in the first place. Excuse me,
Yeah.
but that's the truth. It makes life difficult and makes life difficult going on.
Yeah. Let me tell you.
About,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to tell you about my rage. My rage was usually, you know, at other people.
Mm-hmm.
It was about other people. It was about, you know, and of course, you know, being that kind of guy, you know, you got to scrap and all of that stuff. It's crazy as it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I sort of, I didn't really get a whole lot out of goodness out of being raged.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of almost, my own head made me think I was doing the right thing. And I wasn't. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's almost like you're yelling. You're yelling, let people know you're yelling and you're fighting.
That's why consciousness needs to meet with conviction.
Okay.
If you're unconscious, you just have conviction. And that's not helpful. But if you have conscious conviction, and I'm sure that Jesus had it when he flipped the table, like your arrow is going to hit the bullseye, you know, and the message is going to get across. And that's going to leave you with no scar tissue or guilt. And I just want to say specifically to all of the men out there who feel like they might need to apologize, like you do not need to apologize. First of all, I know that in spiritual realm, like I know that nothing ever happened that wasn't gently planned for my highest good. And I know that can sound insane, but like you're saying, Marty, like we bang up against each other as human beings and we make special things, you know, like what's the difference between you like grabbing me by the arm or, having raping me. Like, these are just that I've made body parts special and I've made special things special. And so I take full 100% responsibility at this side of my healing for that. And I don't need an apology from anyone, because that's just not the truth. And I don't want anyone ever to feel guilty. But if you do feel like there's something within you that's like, I still have to get clean with this and within my own, like, I feel a little bit guilty about this, good. If it brings up guilt for you, good. Take that to the Holy Spirit, get that healed, because you're not guilty. You're innocent. That's the bottom line. That has always been the bottom line, no matter where you've been, what you've done, who you've done it with, who you've done it on. It's like, you're innocent. All of this that happened in the sands of time. Mother wave came, washed it clean. And that's just the truth. And that's what the practitioner said to me. And so I don't just offer that to women, but I offer that to you. I offer you to any man here who has trespassed, or any woman has trespassed against somebody else. Who hasn't? Who hasn't? Whoever's, got not guilty, throw the first stone. Like, just don't carry that with you. Like, just, as they say in the old Catholic Church, like, what was it? Like, go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Go and sin no more. Well, I hear you, my friends, but it costs nothing to say I care, and I'm sorry this happened, and that's what I'm feeling,
Yeah.
And
I'm with you, pal.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna shut up, but I'm with you.
No, that's grand, and I haven't heard anyone say a pain in my ass in years.
I know. Don't you love him? Don't you love his vernacular? He's like my dad.
Right back to Jersey there, Maureen. Yeah.
Next case. My dad.
Brilliant. All right, we got them lined up there. It's like JFK on Christmas. Jerome is next in the queue.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm en route to take my sister back to the airport after our Thanksgiving holiday. But Maureen, thank you so much for a beautiful talk. And you alluded a couple of times to something about that reminded me of a poem that was written by
You're muted now, Jerome.
You're muted, so don't
Crash.
Sorry. Sorry about
crash
that.
The car.
Yeah. So
Keep losing you, Jerome.
Yeah. Okay, we might save this for next time.
All right.
Bless you. Thanks, buddy. Okay, Alex, you're next in the line there.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, thank you so much, Maureen. I am going to sit with everything that you said, and I feel like how you articulated the mother wound in all of us, like there's a reason that so many men want to apologize, even if they haven't committed atrocities like that. And what you were saying about why do we need to say the whole, like him, the ghost, and the father, like, what are you doing? I've been reading this amazing book called The Great Cosmic Mother, and it talks. Oh, cool. Yeah, it talks
I
about
haven't read it yet, though. It's just on my bookcase. So please read it for me and tell me what it's about.
Yeah, it talks about what life was like before all these patriarchal religions came about, and how we used to worship the goddess and the earth. And I'm still really new to it, but that rage has been coming up in me and realizing everything makes so much more sense. Like, why would we all be so obsessed with these paternal lineages when the womb is where it's coming out of? Like, so thank you so much for everything that you said.
And what I'm hoping is for just equality. I mean, I don't want to. My husband and I have such a great relationship, and I feel like that's true for you and Jack. Like, it's so beautiful to have a relationship where where we share the gender roles, and it's not, no one holds one masculinity or one femininity, and things should shift. Like, I became for a bit this year the breadwinner of the family. And I was like, okay, well, this is what it looks like. And for me, I'm older than you, like breaking old stereotypes is just, sometimes they're even easy, but you guys have already broken them. You didn't even take them on. You don't even need to break them. When we were raising kids, my husband was like changing the baby, and we went into the store, and there was like, they were fitting men for suits. And he said, I have to change my baby. And the guy was like, you're not going to change a baby. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, no. And he's like, yeah. He's like, no. He's like, no, I could you please just give me a place to change a baby? Like, stop arguing with me. So it's interesting. Like, I don't know, like these different things can really cause people to shake the cage a little bit. And we have to be gentle, because it can be scary. And I don't mean to cause fear, but I do invite us to think things through and be conscious around our decision making so that they're actually inclusive.
Yes, well said. Yeah, thank you, Alex. Anger is what we do when our needs aren't met. And I knew you hadn't told your daughter about your experience because that's what the anger was getting your attention about. That was my perception, for whatever it's worth. And then you came back to it later and finally told her the story. Until we feel safe, which is what we're working on in beautiful moments like this together, men and women, we're hiding something. And as you say, we're as sick as our secrets. So this is the place to lay it all on the table.
It was actually not just about my telling her, it was what I was telling me. I was living off a story that I didn't go to college because I was scared. And though that might have been true in the moment, I also got to see like everything was gently planned by one who knew my highest good. Like I went to the American Academy, I did the summer program, I flew off, I started working right away as an actor. Like it wasn't just one thing that makes up every decision in your life, unless you tell a really pixelated story. And so I just kind of had to let that go. And I had to heal my relationship with higher education. Just like I had to heal my relationship with the hospital, with doctors. Like I just had a lot to heal.
Right. Like with anger and grief, I couldn't tell you what your anger means for you. You get to do that just like you did. But what I know from working with people's anger and grief and my own is these are the things that demand our attention when we can't pretend any longer.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say too, Lou, and specifically all the men who are here, I am so grateful for you because back during the #MeToo era, I was like, God, women are coming out of the woodworks with all of these stories, and it's almost like too much to bear. And I'm like, I don't want to have a quiet basement room of women weeping. Where are the men? And why are we not having this conversation with the men? And that's when I met Todd Fink. And Todd Fink and I did this thing called Howl and Harmony, where we would go around different places and we would have conversations about sexuality and transgressions and rape and all of the things, but all of us were there to hold it, not just one quiet, stigmatized room for survivors, And so now we're at a point where we can just have that on Sunday morning. Like we don't have to have a special announcement. We're going to talk about sex today.
Healing. Time for healing, everyone.
Yeah, powerful women and the men who love them and who are not threatened by them. Like,
Beautiful.
Hello, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. This is deep stuff. Rafi.
Yeah, hi. It's interesting how you just kind of, not kind of, you just talked through my journey. What happened was that I come from a family where all the women were equal to the men. All the relations that my mother and father, especially, perfect. Aunts and uncles that were married together. Very rarely the man was the dominant one and the woman was the subservient one. That hardly ever happened. I didn't see that growing up. So I grew up with that thing about equality. Then I get to, I start growing up and I get past puberty, and then all of a sudden women are sex objects. And that's all they are. Sex objects. I became almost obsessed with it. Then two things happen. I meet a woman who, very much like my mother, has this sense of she's very powerful. And all of a sudden, there's no dominant and subservient. There's equality. And then I learned the two magic words also that perpetuated that, which was yes, dear. And that works magic. The other thing is then I got onto a spiritual path. I started with the release technique and the Sedona method. So every feeling of every time I saw anger in a woman, I realized it was a reflection of anger in me, and I could bring it up and let it go. And when I let it go, she wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't obsessed. She wasn't in a rage because I was just everybody. And then then another magic thing happened. You get to 80 years old, and all of a sudden, sexuality drops off the table. You're no longer a sexual animal. I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore. So now you're starting to treat again women as, what's that word? Oh yeah, people. They're just people. And when I see all people as divine love, what's the problem? Well, guess what? There ain't none. Because if I start seeing them as separate individuals, then ego is going to start immediately judging. But if I see everybody as divine love, or divine conduits of our infinite spiritual self,
yeah,
then there's no judging. And if there's no judging, what is? The love. And love, and we're at peace, and that sense of equality gets even stronger. That's all I wanted to share. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafi.
Very good. Do we have anyone else in the queue here?
No,
Okay.
but
You're glad for that. Bless
no,
you.
but there
Oh,
was
okay.
there was a request for havening. So havening is this thing that you just put your arms on your shoulder and you just like rub your body and gently give yourself a little recalibration after this conversation, a little gentle touch, and go to your breath. And I'm not, I haven't taken any havening classes, but I've just learned this from Mia Sarah. So, and also from my mother. And so, as you continue to, just be with this idea of rage, and as you enter into your relationship with when that happens to you or when that comes through you, like, just know that you can still harness the rage. You don't have to be taken down by it. You can go at the pace of peace. You can go with the Holy Spirit. Sometimes it will just knock you off course, and you get to look at that, and there's no shame in it. But this is what it looks like to actually be truly holy, is to welcome every aspect of yourself into the holy conversation. And there's nothing to be embarrassed by. If you want to be embarrassed, that's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed of. If you want to be ashamed, that's okay. But we're going to try and bring it all out, into the sunlight, where we don't have to hide anything in the shadows anymore. It's all okay. You're okay.
Yes. Thank you. Do we have time for Dove?
Sure. Hi, Dove.
You're muted.
I'm not
Dove.
on camera, honey. You can listen to Dove.
The funniest thing is I don't ever put my hand up here, and I look up and my hand is up. Someone says, "Oh, they have time for Dove." All right, this is what I was going to say. I actually see almost everybody as equal always, so I don't get into the masculine, feminine thing at all. I really don't. But I understand that everyone else does, so I accept everyone exactly the way they are. Love you. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Dove. All right, guys. Well, next week is our celebration. So if you have something to share about Speakeasy, if you have a poem or a story or a moment, please let us know so we can make space for you in the program. We're going to be moving through Lou Martin's music, and then a story or a poem, and then back to Lou Martin, and then a story and a poem, or a quote, even maybe your favorite Course in Miracles thing that you learned here. Then we'll have Maisie Bull up with a couple of songs, and we'll have Zach Friedhoff. We just really want to have a wonderful celebration. Things that you learned, if you just want to make a picture of saying thank you, Speakeasy, whatever, however you want to be. use your creativity, use your imagination, talk to the Holy Spirit. If you want to offer a prayer, whatever it is, we have space for you in the program, and we'd love to have as many voices as possible so we can truly see the tapestry of our community over the last 12 years.
Beautiful. I'll be there. Thank you.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Bless. Have a
Peace and
beautiful
blessings,
week.
everyone. Be good to
Bye.
yourselves. Be good to yourselves.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you, Maureen.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you,
Bye. Love
everybody.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so,
Thank
so
you, guys.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maureen.
Everyone.
You're welcome. Take it easy, as Marty would say.
Thank
Take
you.
it easy.